working on velvet, a princess seamed gown, and I just want to show you this part about how, if you look at the back here, I am adding cotton as an, not a facing, but an interfacing, not a lining, but an interfacing to support the back of this velvet. Velvet is little more than fibers shoved through a thin fabric, a thin woven fabric, and really it's kind of delicate. It seems heavy sometimes, but it's really kind of delicate. So I'm backing it, especially in the torso area, so that it'll have a little more oomph. So I'm gonna sew that on just carefully. And a good idea is to use one of, if you have a foot like this, these are awesome. It's a zipper foot. It doesn't spread out and make things go winky wonky. And clearly I'm not using a walking foot, because this thing, I can put the needle on this side or that side, and I will put it so the needle goes on this side and it rides along the seam allowance of the velvet. That's how I like to do it. So I'm just going to sew this down, and you want to stay within the 5/8 of an inch seam, just barely, maybe 3/8 from the edge, and a larger stitch. It's as if you are stay stitching in a way, but you're just getting that backing on there, because boy, it's going to make everything hang better, fit better. The seams will look smoother once you've backed this velvet with this cotton or polycotton. I believe I might be using 100% cotton on this one, because that's what was here. So just sew that all down, and you don't want to go too fast. Of course, my lead foot occasionally defies me. People shy away from sewing velvet, but if you just know a few tricks, you can make it work. Thank you, Tim Gunn. And around we go. Often I'm not a pinner, but in this case, I want it pretty exact, because I want to make sure that what's behind is the same as what's in front. I don't want any puckers or pulls. Even my notches didn't line up, but I'm not worried about that, because I will show you how I do that anyway. It's all a matter of fitting the one side to the curved side, and your notching and your clipping will help you get that all done. But I'm just watching as I go along. I'm making sure nothing is getting ahead or behind, and I'm keeping it as smooth as possible. Don't pull or try to push. Let the machine do the work. Almost done with this one. You gotta try not to let fabric pull down from where you're sitting or anything. Just keep it smooth. I had a friend, I'll show you in a second. Okay. My table's a little rough, but I need to sand it, but I had a friend cut a hole for my machine to fit down in. The only thing I have to do is I have to bring it up if I choose to do a cuff or a pant sleeve or pant on this, but you know, I can go to another machine, but I don't have to. I'll just lift the whole thing out if I want. So there's how that goes down. Now you've got this sewn to the back. And then when you start sewing up your seams by putting more velvet on velvet, you have 4 layers you'll be going through, but it's amazing how it helps to have this backing on when you're trying to sew this all down. And so we'll move on to the next. Now that we've got our backing sewn to our pieces through the torso area. See, all ready to go there. Look how smooth. Now, these two pieces go together. See, we have our clipping done. Clipping makes it so if you just never clipped this and tried to hook it to this, you would have issues. So clipping is so important, people. You make sure that you do that clipping now. You have these notches. You can match them up. Maybe they'll match up. Maybe they won't. But before you start pinning, just follow it up and see how this matches. The important thing is, you see that little, let me make sure I'm in the, yeah, see that little area there? It's okay if you have that wedge. The important thing is, this is where the seam goes, and this is where the seam goes. So if those 2 points match, you're in pretty good shape. So what I'll do is I will start pinning around this, because on these curves, this is side back seam, which is hooking the side back to the center back. So you just, your hand forming it around that curve, and these little wedges, these little slits will spread into wedges. Try to match up the outer as best you can. Sometimes your cutting may have put you off a little bit, but that's not going to be a big deal. So just keep working your way around. This is, around the curve is a good place for a fair amount of extra pinning, which we dislike, but we'll do it anyway. So it just helps. Now, see, when I get down here, one or the other of my notches is not really going to match. Looks like the cotton ones did, but the velvet ones are off a little. That's just all a matter of when you're cutting. Sometimes your scissor slides in a little too far, or not in far enough when you're trying to go out and come back. So that's not a terribly big problem. So I'm going to just get past this curve and keep going a little bit, and as I get past the curve, then I can lay it out and pin a little further apart. Just the main thing is to match up the velvet edges, because the velvet is the original. And actually, velvet, when you get them matched up, it kind of sticks together like Velcro. I think that's kind of handy. So I'm just going to get some pins in through there. Certainly I want it pinned through all this area with the extra, like 4 layers. Yeah, we'll get that. And then we will carefully sew that down. Now, there have been times when I've been nervous about going around the curve, and I will, at least from here up to there, I will hand baste it. But since this is the side back seam, it's not as tricky as the bust seam. When you see the bust seam, it's a major curve. So I'm going to take a chance and slowly follow this seam and see if I can go well enough. I will get you set up over here. And here we go. My idea is to always sew on the side where you see the notches looking up at you. If you try to sew from this side and go around, I mean, you can do it, but I would advise don't even get in that habit, because eventually you'll just flop one of these over. It'll get caught on the inside or outside, and your seam will get all yucky. Yucky. Ever heard that word? I'm not sure I ever have, but we're making it up as we go. All right, so we're matching up best we can right there. Get the first few stitches and by it being thicker, sometimes I jump in a little bit. Take one or two, then go backwards. I know there's better ways, like have your little piece of fabric out there. I'm just too lazy. I just like to get at it, people. So, following through. And honestly, I actually dig my nails in to hold that velvet so it doesn't move. And the hardest part is getting around this curve in the back. There's nothing prettier than a nicely curved seam in the back of a jacket. I love princess seam jackets. They look so pretty. But this is a dress, actually. But a princess seam jacket, bodice, whatever. It's so flattering. And I'm doing my full 5/8 of an inch seam. I pull my pins usually before. See, I'm kind of pressing down, getting things so they're stuck. Then a few more stitches. Double check it all the time. Get things out of the way. Let me check my seam. Yeah, I think it's okay. Now I'm getting past that curve, I get a little more confidence. You can probably tell by the way the machine sounds that I am sewing through 4 layers of fabric. When I get past this, it'll be only 2 layers, but that's going to be a little tricky because in this particular dress, I have some embroidery to do on each panel, so I don't want to sew a permanent seam down through there because I want to be able to open that out so I can do my handiwork. Getting close. Yes, sometimes I go a little fast. You'd be amazed how fast I do go sometimes, and then often, honestly, sometimes you can regret it. Especially on velvet. If you go flying on velvet, it can't take it. It's just like, whoa, where are we going? Slow down. All right, now, I'm gonna just carefully line up a few inches at a time. Stick it together with my hands. Oops, I already forgot, didn't I? I want a baste stitch. Go bigger, go home. Okay. The other thing is, if you put it on a base stitch and you go too fast, you will look at that stitch and it'll be like, now this is these machines I'm using. Probably true on most. I've always, pretty much seen that to be true. And here you're going to discover, I'll show you, it's kind of a mistake. It's going to be a mistake. You watch. No matter how carefully you go. You see how I can see the velvet of the back? Yeah, this particular velvet is not that cooperative in my opinion, so I'm probably going to do a nice long hand baste to finish out the lower half. That's what I'm telling you. This up here made it so, you see my seams? You barely have anything showing from the back. There's a little bit it started. That's probably why I got a little fast, But the rest of it, I was pinned so carefully and I went around carefully and everything worked out pretty good. And actually I got a little fat right there. But let's turn it and look. Oh, yeah. My girl is quite tiny. She is petite. She's tiny. She has the perfect little figure. And look how beautiful that looks. When I get some of the bulk cut out, that is a beautiful seam. Yep. So that's what I'll do. And then I'm going to get the bodice pieces all together, and then I will leave my skirt pieces open, and I will hand stitch them because I just don't like that velvet sliding all over the place. It just irritates me to no end. Okay, give me a break.